What's going on YouTube world? Austin Zaback here with another YouTube video, and I'm actually here in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico right now, just soaking up a bunch of sun, and I'm here in my Airbnb. But hey, I wanted to share a video with you that is very exclusive to wholesaling, okay? Every Wednesday night, myself and my team, we put on a live Zoom call where we do Q&A, and we have a bunch of different topics that we cover with wholesaling real estate, okay? And I wanted to just go ahead and share our last week's call with you right here on YouTube, and just share with you some different strategies that we use in our own wholesaling business. You know, I've been able to close literally 4 or 5 deals while being in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, and you can do the exact same thing. So sit back, enjoy the video, and don't click off to the very end. I promise you to be worth it. There's a ton of value that we drop in this video. As always, at the end of the video, drop in the comment section down below what you would like to see in a future video. And right now, if you could give me a thumbs up, because the YouTube algorithm gods will reward us the more thumbs up that we get. Okay, guys, again, sit back, relax, and enjoy.
You know, tonight you guys are gonna get some valuable information. I literally looked over the meeting, you know, the outline of tonight's, you know, information that's gonna be shared with you guys. And I'm just telling you right now, if I were you, I would grab a pen and paper, because tonight's Zoom is actually going to be some valuable information that I truly believe that it will. If you're just getting started in your business, you're going to be 5 deals a month very shortly. If you are at 5 deals a month, I guarantee you'll get to 10 deals a month. If you're at 10 deals a month, I guarantee you'll get to 20 deals a month with the information that I share with you. So, you know, without further ado, I'm going to do the dang thing. So I'm going to turn it over to the man, the myth, the actual legend, okay? And that is Mr. Zaback, and you know, he spoke really highly of me. Honestly, I didn't even know he was actually talking about me, but you know, like I said, guys, we've been in business for multiple years now. You know, it's best friends, roommates. I mean, the yin to my yang, right? Ever since we got started, ever since we met, really, ultimately, and we've done some incredible business things. We've accomplished some amazing goals. We've created multiple 6-figure earners. We've created multiple 5-figure earners, multiple 4-figure earners. We've helped, you know, moms stay at home with their kids. We've helped the young studs that have never made money in their entire life make money. We've helped those guys that are just getting started in wholesaling, you know, to do 5, 10, 15, 20 deals a month. So this dude, on A to Z, when it comes to Z being success, this dude will teach you how to go from A to Z, and that is the man, the myth, and I'm going to turn it over to him.
Hey, I really appreciate that, guys. Can you guys hear me? Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, hey man, you know, at the end of the day, I feel like we always do this. You know, I pass it to Lewis. I talk really high things about him. He gives it to me, and I just can't even. You know, I get no words to describe my appreciation for all that. So, you know, I really appreciate that, and just definitely very blessed to be able to have the opportunity to even be here tonight. But let's just jump right into it, guys. You guys are all here to get value, and this is exactly what we want to provide. So let's just start dropping bombs. I do have my other business partner, Brendan Gray, on here. You guys can all see him on your screen, depending on where you're watching from, and we're gonna all just kind of go back and forth a little bit at the very end. We're gonna open it up for questions, you know, so go ahead and start dropping those in the chat as we kind of go here. So we're gonna start with over the last week, we've kind of been putting feelers out there in terms of like what people have, you know, like what people are wondering, right? What people want to know as it pertains to the wholesaling business, you know, and there's a lot, by the way, guys. There's a lot. We could probably be on this Zoom for the next 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8 hours and not get through it all. So tonight we're going to try to get through everything that we can as it pertains to wholesaling, and hopefully you guys will get some serious value from that. So we're going to start off really quick with contracts. Okay, we've had a lot of people ask us about contracts, so we're just going to kind of jump right into that really quick, and specifically to contracts. We're going to talk really quick about off-market and on-market contracts. I'm going to go over off-market contracts, and then I'm going to have Brendan go over on-market contracts, and I'll bring him in and intro him here in just a moment. So if you're taking notes, understand that depending on what state you live in, you know, a lot of people will use the Association of Realtor contract, and a lot of people use an off-market contract, which is essentially just a templated contract that most of the time, I'd say 9 times out of 10, an attorney wrote up, and there's 1,000 different versions of it, and they all basically do the same thing. You know, that being said, I think the reality of it is when we're I guess, you know, deciding, first of all, for us, a lot of the times it's a deal by deal situation, right? So we're determining most of the time in the moment what contract we're going to use. And I think a lot of it comes down to Emotional intelligence, right? You know, are we working with a real estate agent? Are we working with a seller that is very, you know, like they don't trust, right? They're not necessarily like trustworthy people, like right off the bat. You know, in those scenarios, like sitting an off-market contract that leans heavily in the buyer's favor, okay, AKA us, the wholesaler or the buyer. You know, a lot of those contracts, off-market contracts, the terminology or the verbiage leans heavily in one direction, right? Normally being our direction, okay? So, you know, again, if we're dealing with people that, you know, maybe they don't have a clear understanding, they haven't sold 1,000 houses in their life, you know, then sometimes we'll use an association contract, the same contract that real estate agents use, which again achieves the same result, but we'll use that just to make everybody at ease, okay? I would say that's probably one of the biggest reasons that, you know, and again, the off-market contract, so, you know, and I'll let Brendan kind of touch again on the AAR if I didn't already cover that on accident. But again, the off-market contracts, they do lean heavily in our favor. So if we can use them, we want to use them. You know, and again, this isn't to screw anybody over. It's just to have control of the deal, right? To know what we're doing and to understand that whatever terminology we add or take away from that, you know, we have a very clear understanding of that without having to read 10 pages of some AAR contract. Brendan, do you have anything to add to that on why we would use an AAR over a non-AA, or not, I guess it wouldn't be AAR if they live in another state, but an association contract in general?
Yeah, absolutely, Austin. Thank you. So an association contract versus an off-market contract. An association contract, those are going to be contracts that if you're trying to gain the trust of your seller, and you know, you can take your association contract and let them know, hey, this is the contract that we use, any real estate professional is going to use. And by the way, you don't have to be a real estate professional to use your state's local association contract. So you don't have to be a realtor, and you can use that association contract. That association contract, you can explain to your seller, hey, this is the same exact contract that any realtor is going to use for the purchase of this for purchase of a property, and that can be used to put the seller's mind at ease. Okay, this is a normal contract. It's standard verbiage. It's something that is basically deemed in that state to get a real estate transaction done fairly, and it's going to an association contract. It's going to have a lot of verbiage that protects the seller. It's going to have a lot of verbiage that protects the buyer. It's going to be kind of evenly matched there versus an off-market contract that Austin spoke about. It's generally going to be a one-page contract. The verbiage is going to be highly leaning into the favor of the buyer and protecting them, protecting their rights. Now, an off-market contract, one of those one-page contracts, they can also be really, really good for a seller as far as they don't want to read 10 pages of verbiage. That can get very confusing. So even though that the terms may, you know, on an off-market contract may be better for the buyer, it can be more simple for them to comprehend and just take in a one-page contract and ultimately get them to click that dotted line on the DocuSign or signing it in person. So each kind of have their pros and cons. We oftentimes, Austin, we like to use a lot in Arizona. We like to use the Arizona Association of Realtors contract. It's just it's a contract that is easily, it benefits us as the buyer, it benefits them as the seller. So we're able to use it and bake in whatever benefits that we want for us within that contract. And it's just a standard contract that, you know, they can trust, the sellers, that is.
I love that. Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. You know, by the way, really quick, guys, for those of you that don't know Brendan, the guy that was just talking, he's my business partner and a dear friend of mine. And man, I tell you what, I've just had the great pleasure of conducting business with this gentleman and just doing life together. So, you know, everything that he does is just out of a place of love. And we're scaling a very large company. You know, I just really appreciate you, Brendan, for being on here, and I hope everybody else appreciates, you know, that the same way that I do. So I appreciate you for you know, kind of going into that a little bit. So hopefully that answers your guys' contract questions. You know, moving forward, if you have any more questions on that, we'll answer questions at the end. We're going to talk really quick. This is a big one we've been getting, Brendan, is assignments versus a double close. Do you want to just kind of briefly touch on that, and then, you know, we can kind of go you know, together here in a second?
Yeah. So assignments now off of your original purchase contract. This is how we get paid. How we transfer equitable title in a contract to somebody else is using an assignment. An assignment is going to be it's an easy way to go ahead and get a deal done versus a double close, which can be a lot more tricky. Now, an assignment has its pros and cons. A double close has its pros and cons. A general assignment is going to be another one-page document. Now, this is something that I want you guys to be very aware. Using the assignment versus using a double close is going to be good in some situations, some in not. Now, in situations, if you're using an assignment, your seller is going to see on the bottom of their settlement statement, most likely, the exact fee that you're going to make. Now, on a double close, which is a simultaneous close, essentially, you're closing on a contract using the funds of your end buyer, and you're going to pay an extra set of closing costs to achieve this, and yet your seller is not going to see how much money you're making on that assignment. So that's going to be very, very, very beneficial. You're going to pay for that double close. And now, Austin, what do you think, as a rule of thumbs, as far as when using an assignment versus a double close? And a double close, just as plain English as it can get, is going to basically protect what you're making to basically keep from there being problems of the seller wanting to move forward. When would you say, Austin, is, we get to the point where we're like, okay, let's double close this deal as far as the profits go?
Yeah.
What number there do you think?
I think it probably depends on the market, Brendan, as we kind of, do this on a day-to-day basis. We're in multiple different markets around the country. I think, in different markets, people expect different things and people have weird expectations. I will add that I've experienced buyers getting weird before too. I've experienced, so the seller and or the buyer, right? There are some buyers, by the way, Brendan, we deal with all the time that they couldn't care less how much money we make as long as they're still getting a good deal. Whether that literally be 10 grand or 100 grand, right? We popped six-figure wholesale deals, right, Brendan? So, it's understanding that, but there's understanding there's another kind of buyer that if they think you're making more than they're going to make and they've got to put, 3 or 4 or 5 months of work into this project, then they're not very happy with the situation. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you shouldn't, make that amount of money. I mean, it's just, it's a situation basis deal and you've got to figure that out on your own. But if you've determined that you should make the amount of money that you're about to make, then, and you also think that still might cause problems, then you want to do the double close, right? Now I've had the only other situation, Brandon, where I could think of doing a double. It's like, I guess probably 10, probably 15 to 20 grand is when you start entering like the red zone of like, okay, like think about it, right? Like who's your buyer? Who's the seller, and is there going to potentially be a problem here? I would say there's that. The only other time, Brendan, and correct me if I'm wrong, is I've had, every now and then you'll be rushing like in a new market and we're trying to find a good closing attorney or a good title company to close our deal, and they don't want to do an assignment. They're not very investor friendly, and you might have to do a double close to make the closing attorney or title company feel better about doing the deal.
100%. I agree with you there. And even if there's an agent in the way, they're going to be like, hey, what's going on here? What's this assignment fee? They're going to want to explain that to their client. So that's another instance where I've had to pull out the double close. And it just, because an agent might make 1-2%, and then they see you're making 5 figures on a deal all of a sudden, they might be going to bat against you. So using the double close there too, definitely, and with an attorney or a closing escrow officer who's not into that investment stuff, definitely they're going to be a double close for sure.
Yeah, I like the agent one. That's a big one. That didn't even initially come to me, but now that I think about it, we've definitely dealt quite a bit with that. Agents are already so weird. I feel like, Brendan, not to get too far off topic, but they already don't know how they're going to get paid, and they're like, "Are we doing? Is it a commission or is it a referral or is it there's so many different ways to do it that adding one more thing to the mix when you already got an agent that is a little bit hesitant, is probably not the best idea. So again, doing the double close, like you were saying, Brendan, I mean, the reality of it is, the wholesaler many times is going to have to pay a set of closing costs.
100%.
That's not ideal, but obviously if you're making the right amount of money, then it's also not ideal either. You know what I mean?
Right. 100%. And it just depends, sometimes biting that extra $2,000 is going to be worth it to, get the deal done or not. And that's a lot of times what it comes down to for us.
I love it. And just to really, for 2 seconds, get super basic with people, an assignment is where you're assigning the original contract, the A to B contract, to the end buyer. Like they're literally assuming that contract and you back out of the deal altogether. And a double close, AKA simultaneous close, is where there's actually 2 separate contracts. There's the A to B, you and the seller, and then there's the B to C, you and the buyer. And you actually close on it here, and then simultaneously you close on it again. And the buyer's funds at the very end, they kind of umbrella and act as your funds because you only actually owned the property for like 60 seconds.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense to people. So just for anybody that was curious, did that explanation, maybe I explained that the wrong way, Brandon. Did that make sense to you?
Yep. And someone's question there in the chat, they're asking, and I believe it's kind of touching on that as well, is, you cannot do a double close unless you've got the title and escrow officer as well as a closing attorney. They're going to want to see the new purchase contract, which is basically going to provide that funding. Without the funding from that second purchase contract, they're not going to set up a double close for you or even start that paperwork. Don't even start the conversation with your agent or closing attorney until you've got that deal, basically a purchase contract done, and you're able to get that EM in and that contract, and then you start talking about doing the double close. Once you've basically secured that funding, you can do the double close.
Exactly. I love that. That's pretty powerful stuff right there, guys. Again, if you have any questions on that at the end, we'll be taking some questions. But I think for now, let's jump right into one more thing that people are asking, and then there's kind of another section we want to cover, and that is, what is the difference in wholesaling between, kind of doing this on the side, like you've got a job, you're kind of wholesaling on the side, you maybe got a family, maybe you have kids, maybe you don't have all the time in the world, but you want to make some extra money, right? You want to do a little side gig. And scaling a business, right? Hiring and scaling and that whole thing. And Brendan, do you want to just touch a little bit on like what the side gig of it, part of it looks like what that might entail?
100%. So I have done wholesaling as a side business. I've treated it as a career, what we're doing now. And for the past couple of years. Beforehand, I originally called a bandit sign, and that's how I got into wholesaling. I met with a wholesaler, and he basically introduced me to the whole world. Now, you could totally do wholesaling on the side. My advice to anybody trying to build a wholesaling business as a side gig is you need to find ways to basically replicate yourself. You're going to have a job. You're going to have other stuff going on, and you need to find a way that you can automate prospecting, outgoing, inquiries to sellers, and you got to find a to duplicate yourself. And, so doing it as a side gig there's 1,000 different ways to do that. And you can't sit there all day making cold calls. Obviously you've got a job, so you've got to figure out a way to get a mass amount of inquiries out to sellers or agents or whatever your lead source is going to be, and have that come into a funnel, and be able to call these people, text these people, email them back, and at nighttime. That's basically, or on the side at your job. Well, you text on the side, text sellers back, that type of thing. As far as doing it as a business, a lot of the principles are going to be the same. You got to be consistent. You got to have you've got to be committed. So if you're going to do it as a side hustle, the consistency and the commitment to replying to those texts, sending out those texts, sending out those calls, calling those agents, you got to do it every single day. If you're setting aside a certain amount of time in holding yourself accountable. You have somebody in your sphere of influence that's going to hold you accountable. Hey, how many sellers did you talk to today? So when I was doing this as a side business, I would put a very, very small goal in front of myself. Okay, talk to 10 people a day about selling real estate. And any person doing this as a side gig, you can talk to 10 people a day, no matter what, who you are, what your day looks like. You can talk to 10 people a day about selling real estate. Times that by 5 or 6. Now you've talked to 60 people in a week. Times that by, do a month. And then all of a sudden you've talked to X amount of people in a month, and you start figuring out, okay, it talks 280 people a month, I get 1 deal. And just being super consistent with that. If you can talk to 10 to 20 people a day, you've got a business right there on the side. You're going to be able to get a deal done a month, and that's a side hustle right there. If you got an extra $2,000, $3,000 a month, $8,000, $10,000 a month by, basically talking to a few people, which you're going to talk to people anyways. Make sure to just slide in that conversation about real estate organically somehow in these conversations that you're having in your everyday life already, letting people know what you do. They tell real estate agents, you can't be a secret agent. You can't be a secret agent. Tell people what you're doing. Everybody has to know what you're doing, even if it's a side gig. I'm dabbling in real estate. So call your friends, 10 people a day. And you just start off, touching base with them, 10 people a day. That's what I would do if starting a side business. Me and Austin can dive in. Austin, we talk about building a real business. We start to put together, 5 or 6 different lead flows where leads are coming from, and putting people into those spots. So now you start organizing and delegating people when we're talking about building a business.
Yep, 1,000%.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. With building a business, first of all, when you almost have to start as a side hustle in order to get it to the point where you build the business, right? Or you've got to have money from somewhere else, or just have a bunch of money and a bunch of free time, like a gap. Like you almost got to either do side hustle and then transition into business, or save up a bunch of money where you work, or just have a bunch of money and then be willing to put all your time and energy and be okay with not making any money for 30 or 60 or 90 days while you build the systems and the processes and the culture and the people and the hiring. You do the things that you have to do to build a business, right? And there's a lot that goes into that. But, again, it's understanding that, that's a different kind of task, right? So, now you have more time in the day because you're only doing wholesaling, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to do more deals right off the bat. So a lot of it is a lot of time and energy that gets spent in delegating, right? And figuring out, business partners, distinguishing roles, right? Building systems, building processes, figuring out, marketing, getting an acquisitions person, figuring out who's going to, be dispositions, who's going to dispo your deals, right? There's a lot of different pieces to scaling a business. You've got to probably build a culture, unless you're doing everything with VAs, right? Which I know people that do, people that run an entire business on virtual assistants. If you're not familiar with what a VA is, it's a virtual assistant, right? You can do that, but again, their time and energy is going to have to be spent building and scaling that, right? So, just something to kind of keep in mind. And, the biggest thing that I would say personally is, if you're going from side gig to full-time and wanting to scale, or if you are wherever you're at in the process, make sure you're doing, I would say 3 to 5 deals a month and then scale, right? Or have a bunch of money put away. But one or the other's got to happen. Otherwise, you're probably going to fall flat on your face, and you're going to end up trying to go scale and end up back in a side hustle because you're going to have to go get a job or figure out another stream of income, which makes it a side hustle at the end of the day. So, would you kind of agree with all that, Brendan?
100%.
Okay.
100%. 100%.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, again, they both it just, you got to define what your goals are, right? I think a lot of people, they go aimlessly through life with no goals, and they want to achieve a bunch of stuff, but they don't really know what, right? It's well, what do you want to achieve? And actually break that down and figure out, okay, well, I want to make, $100,000 this year, right? I want to make $100,000 in 2020. Okay, great. How many deals are you going to have to do to make that $100,000? And then, is that going to be a side gig or a full-time gig, right? Or I want to make $1 million, or I want to make $5 million. The reality of it is none of those numbers are really that unrealistic. It's just a matter of clearly defining your goal and then defining, like, reverse engineering to figure out what is it going to take to achieve that goal.
100%. And to add to that, Austin, another topic I just thought about it, whether you're starting a full business or this is a side gig, I think another good kind of tip here is pick an avenue and a strength, if you would, if that's going to be acquiring direct to seller deals, or are you really good at finding cash buyers? Picking one of those avenues, and especially, you can build a full business, a full multi-million-dollar real estate business that basically does built off of you having a lot of cash buyers. Totally. And you taking network deals that you have from other wholesalers network, but they know you as the person who's got all the cash buyers. So when I first started in the business, I went out there and I was doing open houses and I was finding people who were doing fix and flips. And I got good at meeting people who wanted to buy deals. Now, I couldn't go out there. I wasn't good at sourcing the deals, but I knew people who had them. So I was able to take what I had and my strengths, which were those meeting people, talking to people, and finding people who are willing to buy real estate, and just connecting those dots with the people that I know who had all the deals. Now, right. You can do the exact opposite.
Yep.
Focus on finding the deals and bring the stuff to people who have the cash buyers. So focus on one or the other to start. And, whether that's a side gig starter or a full-on business starter, picking one of those, and then maybe, over time, as you have more money, you're closing more deals and you have more time and you have more people, start opening up other branches of your business, or in other words, start scaling your side gig into a real business.
Yep. I love it, man. You couldn't have said it better. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's just a matter of getting the game plan right and understanding that you can't do it. In the beginning, if you're marketing to get a seller, and then the moment you get a seller, you flip your hat the other direction and you're marketing to get a buyer. Well, what happens when you're marketing to the buyer? You're now not marketing to more sellers because you're only marketing to buyers. So it's like this weird thing that you do where you're like up, down, like you close the deal and then you don't close the deal for a month. And then you close 3 deals and then you don't close anything for 3 months. And then it's just like, you never really actually.
Yeah, you're better off focusing on a strength.
Right. Constantly bring in deals or constantly sell other people's deals till you have enough money to get help.
Exactly. 100%. That's the way right there.
Yeah, and we know personally people that have made millions of dollars doing one or the other.
Yeah.
And so awesome, dude. Awesome. So moving on, Brendan, I think there was a couple more questions that you have there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to kind of move along to some questions that have been asked us for us, you guys. And a couple of questions that I have here. Let's see. I want to wholesale a property without the seller knowing the details of the wholesale. Can't do a double close. Austin, what are your thoughts here? And let me ask kind of where my head goes immediately, kind of just pointing out, and you can expand on this. Is that going to be a wholesale? What's the deal here? What are you thinking on that one?
Yeah, I mean, the seller knowing the details, I would love to know what the challenge is there. Obviously, I mean, initially I'm like, okay, the seller maybe knows they're familiar with the term wholesaler and they don't want their property to be wholesaled. They want an end buyer. So, you might have to figure that out, right? Now, there's a lot of different ways to figure that out, Brendan. As we know, first of all, I don't know why you wouldn't be able to double close. So I would look into that a little bit more and figure out why you can't double close. You can always take the property down with hard money. If it's a good deal, you could get hard money and take the property down and do a wholesale, which is where you actually purchase the property. You actually own the property for a month or two maybe, but you don't really do anything to the property and you just list it with a real estate agent and put it right back on the market for a potential $10,000 or $20,000 or whatever profit, right? So, that would kind of be where I would go there. But I would also wonder, Brendan, why can't you just be the buyer? Now, I'm not saying lie, but in our business, I can speak on your behalf, Brendan. Like we're buyers. Like we buy properties. Now, that doesn't mean that we buy every one, but that also doesn't mean that if I say I'm a buyer, like I'm lying about that, right? Like I'm more than capable of picking up the phone, calling a hard money lender or using cash, whatever, and taking down a property, right? So, I can be the buyer to put the seller at ease and then ultimately double close on that deal to an end buyer. And then, if there's any questions there, it can be like, hey, like we have multiple LLCs that we buy under, right? There's multiple different entities in our business, Brendan, that we buy under, and so sometimes right before close, we'll move it to another entity for tax purposes or whatever. Is that,
Yep.
You think that was somewhat in the context of the question?
I think so. And maybe too, say in an instance like this as well, Austin, and that answers for sure the question. And, say they get a deal under contract and they didn't do their homework on an investor-friendly attorney or escrow officer. And they're like, no, you can't double close here. You can't do an assignment here. Maybe that could be another context of the question. Yeah. Say you run into an issue with that. You as the buyer, pretty much, at least in the state of Arizona, and I've had experience with this, you can transfer that contract to a different title or attorney, if you would, title escrow officer or attorney. And that's something that you can try to pull the strong arm and demand, if your title or escrow attorney is giving you problems there, and then definitely wholesaling. You know what I mean? It's something that people stray away from because it does take out of pocket money to do. You usually got to get 10% down for the property. But if you get a deal deep enough and, you don't want the seller to see an assignment fee and you can't double close for whatever reason, that's going to be an option. Now, here's another option as well. And you can basically say you have an end buyer, you can't do a double close, you can't do an assignment, but you want to get paid and you're not a realtor. You've got an end buyer though. You can sign a joint venture agreement with the buyer, or maybe even a marketing agreement with the buyer that says, it's not on a per deal basis or anything, but it's a monthly marketing expense that they're paying you if they get a deal from your lead. You're essentially you're a lead service, a marketing service at this point, and these exist, and you have a fee attached to that. You can get paid on a deal like that as well. Whether you're structuring that agreement as a joint venture where you're technically a principal in the transaction and you being a principal comes with a fee, or a marketing.
1,000%. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. There's a lot of different ways to do that, right? So yeah, I absolutely love it. I think the reality of it is, and you're going to see this probably a couple more times as we go, into this call a little bit more, but the reality of it is to understand that it's all about creativity, right? It's all about being creative and, basically figuring out a way to get deals done, right? And understanding that everything's negotiable, at the end of the day. And so, I think a lot of people, they get into the business and they think that, they got to do everything a certain way, right? And that's just not the reality of it. So, understand that wholesaling specifically is, how can you write the contract, right? How can you convince everybody this is a win-win deal? What agreement can you put into place to get the deal done? Do we got to, there's just so many ways to complete a deal that I just encourage you guys to make it happen, right? Seek out advice and just to do whatever you got to do to make that happen, obviously. So I just got you back in there, Brendan. You should be good to rock. Cool. It kicked Brendan off for whatever reason real quick. He's hopping back in here right now. But I'm going to move forward real quick. We got a couple more questions, one more. We're going to do one more, and then we're going to, if anybody else has any questions, we'll open it up really quick at the end. So if you are back in here, Brendan, let's do one more question out of this list of questions. I'm going to just pick one at random, and then we'll just kind of open it up. Are you back in here confirmed?
Yes, I'm back in here. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect.
Cool. So, I think leading right into what I was just talking about, Brendan, I don't know if you heard me, but it's understanding that everything's negotiable, right?
Yeah.
So, maybe just talk for just a quick moment, and then we'll open it up on like, how does make money from different ways? A little bit of echo too there. Maybe it's not. Actually, might be somebody else. Oh wait, it's okay. I got it fixed. All right, cool. Sorry about that, guys. So there's so many different ways to close deals, and there's so many different ways to do everything. What about when seller can't sell wholesale, or what about when they can't do retail? Like, how do you provide the consumer with more options? How do you monetize on that as a wholesaler? Like, how do you not limit yourself to just closing deals when it's a good deal for a cash buyer? Do you know what I mean?
100%. This is going to be a huge value add for anybody, no matter what stage of the business that you're at. If you're a wholesaler and you're only doing wholesaling, you're missing out. Bottom line, you are missing out. There's other ways for you to be monetizing your leads. Now, for us in our business, yes, there's wholesaling, but we are an all things real estate company. We do all things real estate. We have a traditional real estate team. Anybody who's a wholesaler, you need to essentially open up your tool belt. Think outside the box. People it's not always going to make sense for a seller to wholesale you your house at an extreme discount, 75, 65, 50 cents on the dollar. Us as wholesalers, it's our job to service the sellers. We are in the service industry. We're helping customers, and we need to treat them as such. Customers are going to want options. If we come at a customer and we give them, hey, here's one flat option, this is all we do, you're limiting yourself. So myself, Austin Lewis, one of the things that we did with our business, and we're blessed to be able to do, and anybody can do this, is open up your horizons on how to monetize your leads. If a wholesale deal doesn't work, you also need to have a branch of your business, and if you're a side gig or a business, you have a team of realtors that you guys work with, that if say selling the house to us as an investor doesn't work, okay, well, you're still interested in selling, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, great. We worked with a team of real estate professionals. They're the best of the best. We're going to throw up a drone in the sky. We're going to hold open houses. We're going to get the best photos, and we can we can list your property at the best price. So you need to be offering other options and other services to your clients. These leads aren't dead. They want the ARV for their property. Well, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, have you considered listing the property with a real estate professional? We do work with a team of real estate agents. They're the best in town. We do a ton of volume, and we'll do the best of the best when it comes to marketing. We're going to get the best photos. We're going to market the property with open houses, lock boxes on the door, the whole nine. Have you ever been interested in that or considered that? Yes? Well, okay, we'll go ahead. We're going to email you on over an evaluation of what we think your property would be worth. And this is something that, again, once your seller says, yes, I'm interested in selling. No, I don't want to sell you my house. Well, great. Let me pass you on over to the team that we work with here of real estate professionals. And they're going to come in. You get an agreement with a realtor to provide this service as a whole business together. And you become a lead source for these real estate agents, and they pay you marketing fees.
Yep.
Now you've created a whole nother revenue system. And that's just, how many leads have you thrown away because they wanted the ARV? Look back on that number. Go pull out your guys' lead sheets and, count them up. And then go talk to a realtor and show them this list that you've got. Hey, listen, this is what I do. I'm talking to sellers all day long. I'm basically marketing for you. Would you consider paying me a 25% marketing fee on any deals that we get any listings that close?
1,000%.
And that's just one. That's just one other way to monetize. We give at our company 3 different options, and our callers, everybody's trained to give 3 different options. First, here's an offer for your home. We understand you might not like this offer. It doesn't work for everybody, and that's totally fine. Just so you know, we do have the option where you can list your property with us and our team of realtors. Okay, you don't want to deal with that. You don't want to wholesale the house, you know, for whatever reason. Okay, now we look at letting us assume the note. We'll assume the current loan that you have in place, and then that becomes a whole nother revenue source as well. And that's just a whole nother topic of conversation. We can spend a full hour, a full day talking about subject to, is what I'm referring to, subject to purchases. And so we offer cash offer, we offer a listing service, and we offer an assumable note, a subject to.
Yep.
3 different ways that plenty of wholesalers are literally flushing away money just because their knowledge is limited or their mind isn't open, just like Austin Lewis said. If your mind's not open, it's not working.
So I couldn't agree more. You know, again, this goes back to just get creative, right? Make it happen, you know, and understand that, you know, you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner for a reason, you know, and every lead that you throw away, it's on you. You know what I mean? If you're throwing away leads and they go and sell with somebody else, like, that's on you, you know, some way, shape, or form. You should have gotten paid for your efforts, you know, there. So, you know, get creative and figure out how to make it happen, right? You're in business, you're trying to become successful, you're trying to, you know, retire your grandparents, your parents, your future family, your future kids, and you're throwing leads away, right? What is your why? If I go back to the basics, what is your why? And why are you waking up every day and letting opportunity go to waste, right? So, you know, stop doing that crap, and, you know, and ultimately make sure that you're setting yourself up for success. Okay, guys? So with that, Brendan, what do you say we open it up and see if anybody has any questions?
Yeah, let's open it on up.
Cool. Can you guys unmute yourself? Obviously not all at once, but maybe if one person wants to unmute themselves that has a question, like Keenan. I know you got a question, bro. Where are you at?
Absolutely. Austin Zaback, how you doing?
You're about to tap it, dude.
You already know that.
You know what I mean?
Man, they absolute fire tonight. Thank you for bringing the value. I learned a lot. My question tonight is going to be strategies for Airbnb. I've been really interested on different strategies. Can we go over a couple of those?
Yeah.
Yeah. So to be more descriptive, there's a few different ways to do the Airbnb business. Are you talking about like wholesaling deals to an Airbnb buyer, or are you talking specifically about creating rental arbitrage, or are you talking about buying Airbnb deals yourself?
All 3 of them are great, but let's just learn on, guess, when it comes down to someone that's leasing their home, a negotiation between a homeowner and then also signing an agreement. And then from there, what's the processing steps? That'd be like my first question, if you do know that, because that's something along the lines of, it's a very strategic.
Austin, you mind if I hop in there?
Not at all, brother. Go for it.
Okay, cool. So you're agreeing with a landlord. You know, basically you're structuring a lease agreement between the both of you to keep it pretty clean and without having a bunch of terms in there and telling them exactly what you're going to do. You basically want to find out a way that you can have the lease be sublettable, if that makes sense. Having the ability to sublease your lease.
Yep.
If you got that, you're ready to go.
Yeah, that's really what it comes to. So this is a term thing. And I like what you brought up there, Brendan, and Keenan, because you know, you might be out there actively as a wholesaler, but on the side, be building relationships where it's not like a side gig, like you're full-time wholesaling, but now you're creating all these relationships and you're like, well, how else can I monetize? Kind of like what Brendan was talking about a minute ago, right? And this might be just adding another stream of income to your monetization pot. So yeah, exactly. You're creating rental arbitrage, right? You're going in and you know, be completely honest with you, and Brendan, I think you'll agree on this. You know, there's landlords out there that you could probably just be straight up with, right? You know, go after landlords that are disgruntled landlords and they're kind of over it. They don't want to necessarily sell, but they don't really want to deal with it either, and be like, hey, look, like I'll rent from you but I'm going to re-rent it out on a company or a platform like Airbnb. Now, the reason that I'm going to do that and not you is because, again, you're already disgruntled. You already don't want to be dealing with it. So you're certainly, if you can't deal with a long-term tenant, you're definitely not going to deal with a short-term tenant. So let me handle that. I'll commit to $2,000 a month. Anything I make on top of that is profit to me, right? So you're just setting that agreement up in person with it from like a handshake perspective, and then obviously getting it in writing. Now, have people in the past just gone and rented an apartment and then leased it out on Airbnb and been fine? I'm sure. Like, I'm sure it's happening right now all over the world. Have people done that and gotten evicted? Absolutely, right? So, just be careful. Hopefully that answers your question, Keenan.
Yeah, thank you guys very much, man. I'll keep you in the loop. I'm working on one right now in Dallas, so I'll keep you guys on the loop on that and see how it works and what the results are. Thank you.
That's awesome. Good luck with that.
Yeah. Anybody else? Keenan, you're the freaking man, by the way. Anybody else have any questions?
Yo, Austin and Brendan, I have a question for you, actually.
Yeah.
What's going on, Charlie?
What's up, man? How are you guys? I appreciate the value you guys brought tonight. Seriously, you guys always kill it. I look forward to these calls every week. But my question for tonight is something I've had in the back of my mind. I'm just thinking about it. I want to hear what your guys' perspective is. As a 19-year-old, obviously learning a lot from Keenan Garcia. He's a great mentor. But I've been learning how to talk to sellers. I've been studying the closes, how he talks to sellers, really how to negotiate contracts and deals and stuff like that. But as a 19-year-old kid, not even a kid, as a 19-year-old, what's the realization or how realistic is it for me to walk into a house and close a deal? I guess, is there I know there's no age on it, but I guess coming from your perspective, what do you think? Just study more, master it? What would you guys say?
Yeah. So I think, and then you can answer too, Brandon. I've always thought that, for me, I'm 24, so I'm not, I'm older than you, right? I'm obviously I got 5 years on you. That being said, man, when I was 19, dude, I was in the same mindset that I'm in right now. I've been practicing this for a long time. And my biggest thing, looking back in retrospect, was nothing really matters as much as you think it does. So to kind of keep it short is have conviction, be convicted that you're good enough, right? That you're capable of closing the deal, that you're capable of pulling it off, that you're capable of buying that seller's house, that you're capable of providing that solution, even if you don't know exactly what that looks and feels like. I think as entrepreneurs and as business owners, many times, this is just an example of it, but many, many, many times in life, you're going to be in situations where you don't know exactly how everything's going to unfold. You don't know exactly how you're going to do everything or say everything or kind of configure everything, but you can't lack the confidence because, it's like driving a car at night with the headlights on. The headlights only shine so far in front of you, right? And then at some point you've got to drive the car another 100 feet so the headlights keep shining on so you can see, you don't just type in, California from Arizona and then just see LA from Arizona, right? I got to drive, I got to get going. I got to figure it out as I go. So, getting convicted, man, and just saying, hey, look, I don't know everything about everything, but what I do know is that I'm going to figure it out and I'm the best that there is for this seller. And I'm going to get this property under contract as the buyer. I'm going to gain equitable interest in the property. And I'm going to do everything in my power to sell this deal. Even if I don't know exactly what that looks and feels like right now, I'm gonna figure it out as I go, and I'm gonna make it happen. And through trial and error and trial and tribulation, I'm gonna learn and then ultimately be able to just help more sellers moving forward and just keep moving the ball down the court. So you're absolutely right. Age doesn't really have anything to do with anything. And I think with enough conviction, I think an 18-year-old can go out there and run a $50 or $100 million a year company, and I think a 50-year-old can go work a $30,000 or $40,000 minimum wage job.
100%. And if you allow me to touch on that too, Austin, I can relate to you on this as well. It's something that I've battled with, and I've actually looked up to Austin for years and years and years. My first interaction with him, I had no idea that Austin was younger than me. Austin, I reached out to him, and this was 4 years ago, and I had no idea that he was younger than me because, like he said, it's not a thought in his head. You know what I mean? And that's something I've always had to train myself, and I look up to him. I can't even tell you, you know, what an inspiration that he's been on my life, with the kind of mindset and the way that he carries himself. A couple of tips and tricks here that I've learned from him and through the years of experience that I've had is you just can't think about it. Looking at you, like, no matter who you are, like you're a presentable young man. You know what I mean? Without a doubt, one of the biggest tips and tricks that I would give you is dress the part. Go in there dressing to the nines. Like the first time I saw Austin, he was 3-piece suit. You would think he'd been doing real estate for 30 years. And, you know, and he had the confidence in the language to back it. And he knew what he was talking about. So learn the language, know what you're talking about inside and out, dress the part. And I didn't know until I had met him within the past year and a half that he was younger than me. And the wisdom and knowledge and everything, like I look up to him like he's, you know, somebody with twice the age and wisdom of me. You know what I mean? And I had no idea his age, even though, you know, like it's just insane, you know? So just don't let that thought even enter into your head. Speak with clear, concise confidence. And like I said, you're a presentable young man, you know, have a nice haircut, be shaven, you know what I mean? Look presentable, have like a, you know, a clean face, like go in there, do your best, give it your best, dress to the nines. You know, that's going to be something that is going to separate you. So if you walk into a seller's house and you're presentable and you look like this is what you do and you talk like this is what you do, they're not going to have a problem. And another thing is this. The reason I got into my career as like niche as working in the investment world is because that I knew I was young. And getting a traditional buyer or seller to work with me as an agent was going to be difficult. They're going to want somebody older. They're going to want somebody whatever. I knew that if I knew my numbers, it doesn't matter. If I bring you a deal or if I bring you a number that works, if I bring a seller a number that works or I bring a buyer a number that works, they don't care. It's all about the numbers a lot of the times for these people anyways. So, I mean, it's all about the numbers. What do you know, do you know the language of real estate? And if you sound like you know what you're talking about, you look like you know what you're talking about, I can't tell that you're 19 years old. I have no idea that you're 19 years old.
To add on to that, Brendan, and then we'll do like one more question. I know we're running a little bit late. First of all, I really appreciate the kind words, Brendan. Means a ton to me. And it's funny because you say all that stuff, and in my head, I've never like, dude, there's been a lot of times, man, where I didn't know what I was saying. I didn't know what I was saying, right? But my confidence was so high, you never know the difference.
Yeah, your confidence.
Yeah, it's a confidence thing. And you know, I speak with such a, I'm so freaking convinced. I have a lisp, right? I can't even actually pronounce my S's the most perfect way in the world. Nobody's ever brought that up to me in public. And by the way, Brendan, to add to what you're saying about his age, I've never in my life to this day, it's a true statement, I swear to God, nobody's ever asked me how old I am, ever. I've sold every deal that I've ever sold, every business, everything that I've ever done. Nobody in the form of business, right, in the form of closing a deal has ever looked at me and said, how old are you? Ever. It's never happened to this day, ever. And it never will happen, by the way, because it doesn't matter, right? I'm here to provide a result. I'm going to prove it to you. And if you don't believe me, I'm going to bang on your front door until you give me the opportunity to make it happen, right? And I'm not going to let you frickin' sleep or get in your car or drive to the grocery store. Like, I'm going to be there buying a loaf of bread because I want to buy your house. You know what I mean? And you're going to sell it to me. So, you know, again, I speak with high energy because I get excited and I get fired up. And I remain that way because how you do anything is how you do everything. And I firmly believe that. And the moment you convince yourself, you'll automatically convince everybody, right? Like the moment that I'm like, man, I'm good enough. I'm good. And by the way, this applies at the level that everybody is at on this call right now. And it applies at my level and Brendan's level and 10 levels ahead of me, right? The day is going to come where I'm walking into some big crazy meeting. We're making $200 million a year. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, I've never done this before, right? I don't know. And I'm going to have to walk into that meeting and I'm going to have to present myself in a way where, you know, people buy into me, right? They buy into me And obviously the number and the whole deal's got to make sense altogether. But at the end of the day, I've got to be able to do that at every level. It's going to be scary, man. There's levels right now. There's a lot of things that I can't talk about, things that we're doing in our business that I've never done before, right? I've never done before, I wake up every day with a massive amount of confidence, and you'd never even know. So sorry to get so fired up, but man, I
love it, man.
I'm excited for everybody on here, and I want everybody to achieve their goals and their freaking dreams. Charlie, I hope you got some from all that.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't have asked for a better answer. You guys killed that. I appreciate you guys.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate you, man.
All right, we'll do one more quick question if somebody has one. If not, we're going to be getting on here again next Wednesday. While we're waiting for somebody to unmute themselves too, go ahead, everybody, pull out Instagram. If you have Instagram, take a picture, take a boomerang, and tag us in it, right? Tag anybody and everybody that you know on the Zoom call, and just get fired up. We want to build a community here. So anyways, really appreciate it. We're not asking for anything other than that. With that, anybody else have a question? Anybody at all?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do.
Let's roll.
What's up? How you doing, Austin?
How we living, Kevin?
I'm doing good. Just got a question. It's kind of just mindset. It's not really real estate related. It's just mindset. How do you, because I know, you're not always going to be motivated. Not everyone's always motivated. But how do you keep yourself, committed and just, even when things are not as going as planned, things suck. How do you keep yourself going?
Yeah. Sure. Brendan, you want to go first, and then I'm going to go right after you?
I will. So for me, and that one's deep, Austin spoke about, we as entrepreneurs, we go through it. You know what I mean? It is out there on Instagram, like, it's the sexy thing to do. And
right.
It's just so crazy out there on Instagram. And it's all you see is the highlight reel, And
right.
If you look at, I call it entrepreneur anxiety. You know what I mean? I get entrepreneur anxiety sometimes at night, usually about 10 o'clock at night. I'm just like, holy moly, I've got so much going on. You know what I mean? And
right.
And there's going to be, besides entrepreneur, just life, there's going to be a million things going on. And, it's going to sound kind of cliche, but you've got to dig down and kind of expanding off of what your why is, kind of a more deeper level, and kind of sharing with you like where I go to in the frame. I've been through it, and without going into detail in my life, and I just kind of put myself back into those, those times that I've been, and I'm like, and I think about, do I want to be there, or have I been given an extremely huge blessing and been shown God's mercy or whatever has been to allow me the opportunity to keep going that day? You know what I mean? Do you want to look back
right
and compare yourself to like the lowest you've ever been and where you're at right now and look at all of that? I'm sure that, everybody on here can relate. You know what I mean? There's a point in their life where they're like, I'm fed up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Think about it like this. How bad do you want it at the end of the day? Do you want it more than being in that situation that you were in? Do you want it more than you want to breathe?
Right.
Do you want it more than you want to breathe? And when you get to that point where you're like, listen, I don't want anything but to be, you got to remind yourself every morning that what you really want. And I know that's what you want. That's why you're on this. That's why you're here tonight. You know what I mean? And you just listen to everything that we talked about is because you want better for yourself. And just knowing like, I want this, like, do I want this more than I want to breathe? Do I want this more than I want that extra 2 hours of sleep? And and remembering that your competition is working 24/7 to outdo you,
Right.
and I just kind of put myself in a couple of different mindsets, and at the same time, I always kind of live in, I think abundantly, and I think in, even if I've attained something, in my head, I haven't, I assume I already have everything that I want.
but when I guess something,
Right.
I don't let it get to my head. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. I hope that answered your question. I could go forever on this one.
No, it did. No, for sure. Yeah.
I love it, guys. I love it. You guys, everybody, first of all, you know, give everybody that's on here right now, give yourselves a round of applause. Brendan, you're an absolute stud. And, dude, I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. You know, Kevin, you're an absolute stud. And, you know, everybody on here, right? You know, there's 19 people on here that took time out of their Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Arizona time, 10:15, whatever the East Coast time zone is on right now. You know, and at the end of the day, you are all God's highest form of creation, right? Whether you believe in that or the universe or whatever. And everybody on here deserves greatness, okay? And here's what I'll add, and then we'll finish it. And that is this. You know, in life, you've got, obviously, like, the cliche thing to say is figure out your why, determine your why. And that's great, and you should do that. But figure out what you're running to and figure out what you're running from.
There you go.
Right? What are you running from? I'm running from average. I'm running from mediocrity. I'm running from living a normal life. I'm running from a life of complacency. I'm running from a life of discouragement. I'm running from a life of bad relationships. I'm running from a life, you know, and again, remember that how you do anything is how you do everything. And I think a lot of people take that lightly. So if you half-ass your laundry, you're going to half-ass your wholesaling business. If you don't believe me, give it a try and see what happens. So you get to a point in life where you say, enough is enough. That's exactly what Brendan said, by the way. Enough is enough, and I'm going to give my life to this. I'm going to give my life to becoming the best version of myself every single day. Whether that's wholesaling or in your marriage or in your relationships or in your friendships, in your business, partnerships, whatever that is. I'm not going to be perfect, but I'm going to wake up every day and become the best, right? And I'm going to burn the boats. I think a lot of people, man, they get 1 foot in and 1 foot out, and they're like, I'm going to give this a try. I'm going to see if it works, right? I'm going to invest 1,000, but not 2,000 because 2,000 is all I have. And if I invest all I have, then what if it doesn't work, right? Well, that in itself is the reason that it normally won't work and doesn't work. You've got to go all into your life, all into your business, all into your future, all into everything. And you've got to understand it'll take everything, man. You know, a lot of people on here tonight, you know, you think that it's all sunshine and rainbows, and Brendan covered it perfectly, right? It is not, man. It is not. But that doesn't change the fact that there's all of a sudden, the moment you burn the bridges, what is the alternative? There is none, right? You burnt the bridge. You're going to war, and you either die or you win. And that's it, right? There's no other option. I'm going to win, I'm going to succeed, or I'm going to die, right? And that's it. And the moment you get there, man, all of a sudden, magical things start happening. And you start to wake up every day, and you start to see things through a different lens, through a different perspective. You start to look at problems as learning lessons. You start to look at setbacks as an opportunity for a comeback, right? And you start looking at life a little bit differently, and you do enough of that, and you get repetitive enough with that, and you'll eventually realize that your mind is like a muscle. And if you work it out every day, it'll grow and expand. And if you just work it out once a week, then it's not going to do anything, right? It's a daily habit, a daily ritual. And every single day, man, it ain't always going to be easy, like Brendan said. But the moment that you want it back, more than you want to breathe, is the moment that you will become successful. And there's a lot more that goes into that, and there's a lot more that we could talk about tonight. But I hope that you guys got something from that. And if you're in your business right now and you're doing 3 deals a month, I hope that after this call, you go from 3 to 5 to 10. If you've never done a deal, I hope you go close a deal. If you're already doing 10 deals a month, I hope you do 20, 30, or 40. And if you've got multiple business ventures and you're a CEO and you've got the life of your dreams, I hope that you realize that there's always another level and that it is a game. And I hope that you're grateful for what you have, but you never get complacent with the current time, and you're always striving to become better, to change the world, to be a giver and not a taker. And I think that fairly sums up what it's going to take to become successful. With that, Brendan, is there anything else that you have to add? You're a freaking stud, dude.
Be thankful for those things that you guys want like you already have them. that's why I would like to leave it off tonight. It is a little, you know, this is what I was told by mine and Austin's pastor a couple weeks ago, and a message that he left, and it's just been resonating with me for weeks now. And just be thankful, you know, think about that business that you guys want. Think about that, you know, that deal that you guys want to close. Think about that achievement that you guys want. Be thankful for it now. Thank the universe, thank God, whatever it is. Just have gratitude. Be thankful for it now, you guys. And don't wait to get it. Be thankful for it now. Think like you've got it now.
I love it, man. And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is how you end an hour and 20-minute Zoom call. And it's just a beautiful thing that we have here. Guys, real quick, go follow us on Instagram if you don't already. If you have any further questions, we will answer them in our DMs. At Brendan J. Gray, at the Austin Lewis, at Austin Zaback. And we'll answer absolutely any questions you have. We will JV deals with you. We will help you. We are here to help. We are here to give back. We are here to make a difference. Guys, with that, we appreciate you all for getting on the call tonight. And we look forward to seeing you next Wednesday at the exact same time. And the day after that will be Thanksgiving. So get ready to eat some frickin' turkey and have a phenomenal rest of your week. Good night.
Let's go.